The crowd held its breath as a gleaming luxury car spun under blinding lights. Cameras flashed, influencers whispered, and the millionaire behind it all smiled like a king. Everyone believed in the perfection on that stage, but one girl knew the truth. A mechanic's daughter, her hands stained with grease and honesty, stepped forward. She didn't care about fame, power, or money. She cared about truth. And when she revealed what was hidden beneath the glossy exterior, the room froze. The millionaire's empire of lies was about to crumble, and the world was about to witness a revelation that no amount of wealth could buy. The sound of applause echoed through the luxury car expo like thunder trapped inside glass walls. But beneath that noise was something sharper, colder, and more dangerous than envy: exposure. Under blinding white lights and phone cameras raised high, a gleaming supercar sat on a rotating platform, wrapped in polished arrogance and million-dollar lies. People whispered its name like a legend, praising the man who stood beside it, dressed in tailored perfection, soaking in attention like it was oxygen. He was known as a self-made millionaire, a symbol of success, a man who claimed his life was built on speed, intelligence, and risk. And yet, in the middle of that celebration, the truth was about to crack the floor beneath him. If you believe that kindness, second chances, and honesty still matter in a world obsessed with appearances, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who believes in doing the right thing, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe to this channel, because stories like this remind us that truth always finds its way to the surface. At the edge of the crowd stood a teenage girl, no more than 16, wearing worn jeans stained faintly with oil that never quite washed out. Her hair was tied back simply, her eyes alert in a way that came from growing up too fast. She did not belong in this palace of chrome and glass, yet she stood straighter than most people there. She was a mechanic's daughter, raised in a cramped garage where engines were opened like wounded hearts and fixed with patience instead of money. She had learned early that machines never lied, only people did. Her father had spent his life repairing what others broke, never asking for praise, never chasing wealth. He taught her that every bolt had a story, every engine had a fingerprint, and that shortcuts always left scars. When illness forced him into a quiet bed instead of the noisy garage, she became his eyes, his hands, his legacy. She learned to recognize the truth by listening closely, not to words, but to what hummed beneath them. When she saw the millionaire's luxury car online, something felt wrong. The engine note was off, the timing was imperfect, the interior details clashed subtly with the brand's manufacturing history. It was a masterpiece built on imitation, not mastery. What others saw as perfection, she saw as a carefully painted mask. She didn't come to the expo to embarrass anyone. She came because she couldn't ignore what she knew. As the crowd surged forward, celebrating the car as a symbol of success, she stepped closer, her heart pounding harder than any engine she had ever rebuilt. Security hesitated, confused by her calm confidence. She reached the platform not with arrogance, but with certainty. The moment she touched the hood, the truth trembled. She pointed out details most people would never notice, materials that didn't match the brand's standards, internal components sourced from cheaper models, a frame that had been altered to mimic prestige. Her voice did not shake. It carried the weight of countless nights in a grease-stained garage, watching her father choose honesty over profit. Phones tilted toward her, murmurs spread, the applause died. The millionaire's smile froze. At first, he dismissed her as a jealous nobody, a child reaching for attention. But the more she revealed, the more his confidence drained. Experts in the crowd began to nod. Technicians exchanged looks. The truth did not shout, it whispered, and that whisper was devastating.
Security tried to intervene, but the damage was done. The luxury car was no longer a dream, it was evidence. The girl stepped back, her hands trembling now that the truth was free. She expected anger, humiliation, maybe even punishment. What she did not expect was silence so heavy it crushed the room. The millionaire stared at the car, then at her, and in that moment, something inside him fractured, not just his reputation, but the story he had told himself for years. And that was only the beginning.
The fallout was immediate and brutal. Social media exploded with clips, headlines tearing through the illusion of success the millionaire had spent years building. Sponsors paused, investors questioned. The man who once stood tall beside a false symbol now found himself alone in rooms that felt too large, too quiet. The luxury car, once his crown jewel, was pulled from display, covered not in admiration, but scrutiny. But humiliation was not the deepest wound. That came later, in the silence. He had built his life on speed, shortcuts, exaggerations, borrowed brilliance, polished until it shined like truth. He convinced himself that everyone faked it, that success was about perception, not substance. Each lie made the next easier, until the lie became the foundation itself. And foundations, when cracked, do not collapse loudly. They collapse inward. Meanwhile, the mechanic's daughter returned to the small garage that smelled of oil and old dreams. Her father listened quietly as she told him everything, pride and fear mixing in his tired eyes. He didn't celebrate her courage. He didn't scold her either. He simply held her hand, a silent reminder that truth is not always rewarded immediately, but it is always right. The attention she received was overwhelming. Some called her brave, others called her reckless. But she did not seek fame. She returned to school, to the garage, to her father's bedside, carrying the weight of knowing she had changed someone else's life, for better or worse. Weeks passed. Then, one afternoon, a familiar black car stopped outside the garage. The millionaire stepped out, stripped of cameras and applause, dressed simply, almost unrecognizable without his armor of confidence. The garage door creaked open, revealing tools hanging like quiet witnesses. He stood there longer than necessary, as if unsure whether he deserved to enter. What he felt was not anger, it was shame. He had come to confront the girl who exposed him. Instead, he confronted himself. Standing in that modest garage, surrounded by honest work and worn hands, he realized what he had lost chasing an image. He saw a man who fixed broken things for a living without applause, and a daughter who chose truth even when it cost her peace. The millionaire didn't demand forgiveness, he didn't defend himself, he listened, and listening changed everything. He learned how the car was built, how the deception started small, how greed crept in quietly. He learned how honesty had shaped that girl's life, how her father's integrity was richer than any luxury brand. And for the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar, humility. He left the garage without promises, without announcements, but something inside him had shifted. The fake car was sold off quietly, its profits donated anonymously to vocational schools and repair workshops. Lawsuits followed, assets were restructured. His empire shrank, but his conscience grew. And then, slowly, he began again.
Redemption does not arrive with applause. It arrives in effort. The millionaire stepped away from public life, investing not in status, but in skill. He funded training programs for young mechanics, created scholarships for children who grew up with oil-stained hands instead of silver spoons. He partnered with engineers who valued transparency over marketing. His name faded from headlines, and he welcomed it. Months later, the mechanic's daughter received an invitation, not to an expo, but to a workshop. Not to expose, but to build. She saw him there, not as a fallen idol, but as a man learning again, asking questions, admitting ignorance. She saw someone who had finally understood what her father had always known, that real value is built, not displayed. Her father lived long enough to see it, to see that honesty, even when it hurts, can reshape lives in ways money never could. When he passed, the garage did not close, it expanded. The Millionaire ensured it became a training center in his name, not for fame, but as a reminder of where truth lives. Years later, that girl stood not as a shadow of her father, but as a master in her own right. She taught others to listen to machines, to respect craft, to never sell a lie wrapped in luxury. And somewhere in the background, a former millionaire watched quietly, proud not of what he owned, but of what he had learned to give back. Because in the end, the exposure was not about a fake car. It was about a real lesson. If this story touched your heart, reminded you of the power of honesty, courage, and second chances, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to this channel so more stories like this can reach the world. And before this story ends, we have one special request for you. Comment below with your thoughts, your lessons, or even your own story of truth and redemption. Your words might inspire someone more than you realize. Because true wealth is not what you show the world. It's what remains when the spotlight fades.